Welcome and thank you everyone for joining us for today's PENTalk. If you have any questions during the presentation, please submit them through the question box. We'll answer as many questions at the end as time allows. If we don't get to your question today, we will follow up with you after. Tomorrow, you will receive an email with a link to replay today's broadcast. Let's get started. Hosting today is John D'Agostino, Regional Director at Pentegra. John is going to explain where 316 fits into the conversation and how a professional 316 can pay great dividends. John, I will now hand things over to you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And good afternoon, everyone. I am John D'Agostino, and I am excited here today to talk about our topic, which is around what is a 316 fiduciary and how it can be helpful to you and your clients. So just as a quick introduction, I think I'd like to share a story with everyone that I think is relatable, and it's something I'm going through right now, and it might highlight some of the benefits of using outsourced services and what they can do to help simplify your life. So I, thankfully and wonderfully, am getting married in just under 3 months, and my bride-to-be and I decided to get married in Mexico. And clearly, for those of you who have been married, been to a wedding, or know anyone that's been married, there's just a lot of moving parts that go into planning for the whole thing. So thankfully, we have a wonderful wedding planner that we have engaged at the resort in Mexico, and she is absolutely amazing. She not only answers all the questions that we have, she also reminds us of things we haven't thought about. And she also makes sure that all of the little details that we need, that we either remember or that we don't remember, are being taken care of and being taken care of timely and accurately. Last but not least, she also offered us a package for insurance. And being a wedding that we're having in hurricane season, it's in November, we want to make sure that, God forbid, that the weather holds, and if the weather doesn't hold, we want to make sure that our plans are insured and that we can cover ourselves in case anything happens that is unplanned. Now, that story, while true and happening to me, it is parallel to what I believe the benefits are of utilizing a 316 administrative fiduciary. A 316 administrative fiduciary is someone that can help you with all administrative aspects of your plan. So today, we're going to talk a little bit about what is one, what can it do for you and your clients, and then of course we want to hear from you. So we're going to ask a few questions from the audience, and then from there I'm going to share some success stories. So for those folks that have already engaged and are utilizing a 316 services, what's happened? So let's get into first, what is a 316 fiduciary? So what is it? So many folks that I work with in the Midwest, because I am based out of Chicago, are very familiar with investment fiduciaries. So when I say investment fiduciary, I mean partnering with someone or using a resource that helps make the investment decisions easier for plan sponsors. Every retirement plan has an investment lineup, and picking that lineup and ensuring that the appropriate investments are selected and making sure that they're being monitored appropriately is a fiduciary task. Many sponsors that I work with, and many of the financial advisors and consultants that I call clients, are either fiduciaries themselves or they are utilizing a resource. And those resources are either 338 investment fiduciaries or 321 investment fiduciaries. And all those are designed to do are take those tasks, picking the lineup and making sure that it is being monitored appropriately and simplifying it for plan sponsors. Now, I have found over the 20+ years that I've been in the retirement space that working with an investment fiduciary has become a best practice. And in 2023, the vast majority of sponsors and advisors that I work with also agree that it is a best practice, and it is found in most of the situations that I find myself part of. Now, let's turn to the other side of a retirement plan, and that's the administration. So if you were to think about what makes a retirement plan successful, it's, do we have the investments and are they being monitored? And then what about the administration? And by having both of those elements done, and being done well allow your employees or the participants of a plan to have a place to save and invest so that hopefully one day they can have comfortable retirements. So let's get back to the administration. The investments, as I mentioned before, the industry has already come to the conclusion that a best practice is utilizing an investment fiduciary. Now, a 316 fiduciary is having that same sort of protection and guidance on the administrative side of the house. You can think about it, as the slide in front of you shows, as having an extra set of eyes on the plan. Now, if you think about an investment fiduciary, there are a few things that that investment fiduciary really thinks about. Are the right investments being selected for the employees of this plan? And do we have the proper mechanisms in place to ensure that these investments are doing their job? On the administrative side of the house, there is a litany of things that need to be taken care of and need to be taken care of accurately. So it is my opinion that the complexity of administering a retirement plan greatly outweighs the sophistication and complexity of selecting an investment lineup. Therefore, it is our opinion that because an investment fiduciary has become a best practice and we see the benefits that plan sponsors enjoy by working with one, we believe that having a 316 administrative fiduciary is going to be the next best practice. So let's take a moment here and now look at exactly what a 316 fiduciary does. So as I just mentioned, the 316 administrative fiduciary's responsibility is to have a vantage point to say, are all of the administrative tasks being done? And then are all of the administrative tasks being done timely and accurately? So what you can see on the screen in front of you are an example of the different tasks that plan sponsors are responsible for when administering the retirement plan. So if you were to think of the circle or bubble in the middle as the plan sponsor, and all of the bubbles surrounding the plan sponsor as being responsibilities or duties that the sponsor must ensure are being done and are being done accurately, you can begin to see the complexity of administering a retirement plan. Some of the things you can see on the screen in front of you are basic things like, is the document being administered correctly? What about the operational oversight and the compliance that has to happen on a yearly basis? There are things that happen on a more frequent basis, like contributions, like distributions, hardships, or loans. There are things, again, that happen on more of an annual basis, like plan audits and compliance testing. All of these duties are things that, as the person or people sponsoring a retirement plan, they need to make sure, we need to make sure that they're being done and that they're being done right. So having shared all of these different duties and all of these different tasks that are on our plate as an administrator of a retirement plan, what if we could put in place a resource that can take this heavy lifting off your plate? And it could be taken off your plate not only in the terms of time saving, but in the terms of accuracy and responsibility. So what I mean by that are, instead of having the plan sponsor in the middle of that bubble, imagine that it could be Pentegra. Imagine that it could be a 316 administrative fiduciary that will not only assume the risk, but it will also make sure that those tasks are being done and that they're being done on time. Now, I'm going to say that the benefits of working with a 316 fiduciary administrator can be seen much more clearly from the chart that you are seeing in front of you. And I'm going to get into more detail about how that workload is disseminated in a moment, but I'd really like you to think about how your day would look if you no longer had to worry about managing the different bubbles that you see on the page in front of you. Think about what time might be saved what frustration might be saved, perhaps what stress might be reduced if the tasks that you see on the screen in front of you were offloaded or handed to an administrative fiduciary. And if you're sitting there and you're a financial advisor, a plan advisor, an investment advisor, think about the time that you could save and the benefit that you could provide your clients by offering a resource like this to make their lives easier. We believe that the advisors, consultants, plan advisors that we work with today, part of the job that we see them bringing to the table are these types of best practices. And we know the job that we have all done in bringing resources like investment fiduciaries, plan design things like automatic enrollment, automatic escalation, and all of these wonderful ideas that at one time were new, but now are considered table stakes or best practices. This is another idea and another best practice that we collectively as professionals in this industry can bring to our clients and can bring to sponsors to help simplify their lives. I'm going to take one step back here and talk a little bit about Pentegra's experience in this. So Pentegra in 2023 has been doing this for 80 years. We have been working with our clients and handling the administrative tasks as a fiduciary since 1943. So having not only the expertise, the legacy, and the heritage in performing these tasks, we have a lot of experience, and we're going to share, as I mentioned, a little bit later in this half hour of how we've been able to save money and save time for our clients that have utilized us as a partner and as an administrative fiduciary. So let's take another look at what the difference a 316 fiduciary may make. On the left-hand side of the screen, you see quite a few bullet points. And on the right-hand side of the screen, clearly there are much fewer bullet points. And what this chart, while busy with a lot of words on, is trying to show you is very simple. The left are the plan sponsor responsibilities that an employer will have if they are the fiduciary and on top and responsible for managing their retirement plan. These duties and these tasks are those that are typically listed in the formal instruction manual for a plan, the plan document. All of those tasks in tandem with their record keeper that they currently use or their partner must be done, and the plan sponsor or the employer is on the hook to make sure that they're all being done and that they're being done accurately. Now compare that list with the list you see on the right. The list on the right is what happens if you engage Pentegra to be your 316 fiduciary partner. And you can see that that list gets significantly shorter. There are a few things that a 316 fiduciary just can't do. So rather than talk about all the things we do, I think it makes sense to highlight a few of the things that we do not do. So clearly, a significant amount of responsibility, workload, and liability are taken off the plate of the sponsor by utilizing this 316 fiduciary. But there are a few things that we do not do. And here's what they are. Provide timely, complete, and accurate payroll. So as a 316 administrative fiduciary, we're not sitting in the employer's office and we are not submitting the payroll. Therefore, we are not responsible for making those timely contributions. However, of course, we are a resource and we are there to help the sponsor with understanding that this is a responsibility to make sure that those payroll contributions are submitted in a timely fashion. And then second, we are also not responsible for monitoring the service providers. And if you think about earlier in the presentation, I talked about who some of those are, right? The record keeper, perhaps the administrator, and that could be bundled or unbundled, and the investment providers. We're not going to take a look at any of those different partners or players and make a decision on whether or not they are the right fit. We leave that to the advisor or consultant working with the plan, because as we know, that advisor or consultant, one of the values that they bring to the table is helping a sponsor with these decisions. And we also believe that selecting the right 316 fiduciary is very important. I'm going to pause here for a moment and dig a little bit deeper into what that means. So you can see on the chart in front of you this long list of responsibilities. And as a fiduciary, PENTalk takes all but those three off your plate. The landscape of selecting a 316 administrative fiduciary is complex as well. And it's because not all 316 fiduciaries are created equal. So what do I mean by that? If you think about what it means to be a full scope 316, it is to do what I just described. Take all of the duties in the plan document off the sponsor's plate and ensure that they're being done and that they're being done accurately. But what's out there? Are they all the same? And the answer, unfortunately, is no. Many 316 fiduciaries do what I'm going to call a carve out. And all I mean by carve out is we look at all of those duties that are listed in the plan document, and you might say, you know what, I'm only going to be a fiduciary on these 10 things, or these 8 things, or these 12 things, and everything else I'm going to leave on the plate of the plan sponsor. So in theory, we are carving out some of the plan sponsor responsibilities and leaving the rest. At PENTalk, we act as a full scope 316 fiduciary. And I'm only telling you this because if you believe that a best practice should be to take a look at what's out there and perhaps see if one of these 316 fiduciary administrators can benefit your clients, it's also important to know that they're not all created equal, and that knowing what you own is something that's important. And of course, we'd love to be a resource for you to help understand the landscape. We're now want to hear from you folks. The first polling question: how much time are you typically spending each week on retirement plan administrative issues? And I'm going to pause for a moment so you can answer this question.
The poll will be up for about another 25 seconds. For anyone who hasn't selected an answer, please do so. All right, the poll is now closed. And John, it looks like 20% said 1 to 2 hours, 40%, which is the majority vote, said 2 to 4 hours, 20% said 5 or more, and 20% said none.
Great. Thank you guys for participating in that poll. And I spend the majority of my time engaging with both advisors and then secondary plan sponsors. And these comments are definitely very, very typical. I see the conversations, I see some of the challenges and time spent on ensuring that these duties are being done. And it could be something as simple as a loan is not being processed correctly, or approving those hardships, or dealing with compliance and governance issues. So spending those hours on these things can be alleviated. And let's take a look now, if I can get to the next page here, on a case study. So we just looked at how folks on this call are spending some of their time. How much time specifically are they spending on these administrative issues? Now, sometimes time isn't necessarily money, but time that fiduciaries can save could be beneficial in other areas. So, some of the advisors I work with, and while this is a specific case study with a specific financial advisor that does business with PENTalk, but this is not unique to the clients that I work with across the Midwest. One of the advisors we work with estimated that he was trading more than 10 emails a day with one particular plan sponsor on a variety of administrative challenges. And, this plan sponsor just had a lot of things on their plate. And administering the retirement plan was not the only thing that this person had to deal with. They wore a few different hats within the organization, and this was just something that they were really trying to offload, and the person that got the offloading was the advisor. So we had a conversation with both the advisor and the client and talked about what it could look like and what benefits could be realized by looking at a 316 administrative fiduciary. They decided that it made sense, and we signed on that plan sponsor as a 316 client, and we became the 316 fiduciary. And no surprise, the number of emails to the advisor has gone way down to, in many weeks, 0. So the advisor, clearly, with this pretty basic example, has gotten a lot of time back. And that advisor can spend that time back on a lot of different things. It could be engaging with other clients or prospects. It also could be bringing best practices to the market and talking about things like what's happening in an ever-changing capital market environment. Or it could be like things like talking about Secure 2.0 and just the ever-changing regulatory environment, but bringing resources to the table that allow freeing of time to really, really help sponsors where it matters most, which is designing a plan to give them the most benefit to their employees. Let's keep moving. We have another polling question that we want to ask everybody. What is the biggest challenge your clients face in administering their retirement plan? So I'm going to pause here and allow the audience to answer this question. You can see there are 5 choices on the screen, and it could be, what are my responsibilities? Maybe it's something that you have to spend some time going through what those responsibilities are, to filing forms, staying on top of the regulations that I mentioned, or perhaps it's a bunch of these put together.
The poll will remain open for about another 20 seconds or so. Poll is now closed, and John, it looks like we have a tie with the top 3 answers. All 33% said understanding the scope of their responsibilities, making time for retirement plan administration, and filing government forms and 5500.
Fantastic. So again, thank you folks for completing the polling question. And I think honestly it speaks for itself, right? We saw some of the benefits that are realized by working with an administrative fiduciary, aligning with some of the challenges. And that's, we don't have enough time within the organization to spend on these challenges. And sometimes we really need further clarification of what these things are. And that leads to particular tasks, which are filing some of these government and taxation forms, as well as making sure that the compliance element is being done right. And I think that's going to take us into the final case study, which is, what's the value? Can we put a monetary value on working with the fiduciary? So we had one particular example where a client was working with a PENTalk account manager who noticed that there was a challenge with one of our clients. And when she was taking a look and review of the historical filings of a particular client, we noticed that this client had not filed a 2018 Form 5500. After we noticed this, we immediately filed a self-correction, and there was a $750 fee for that self-correction. Then we were hired on an hourly rate to work with the IRS and resolve the situation. And the bottom line is, that scary letter that the client received that said, because of this oversight, you owe $95,000 as a penalty. Think about what this client ended up saving and only having to pay by working with PENTalk as a fiduciary. So first and foremost, $600 is what it cost for our basic fiduciary overlay services, and then a $750 fee for self-correction, and then another $1,000 for us to take a look and solve this problem on an hourly basis. So I would say that the difference in paying a $95,000 penalty versus spending a little bit less money and having the peace of mind and having an expert who's on your team who can not only catch these potential problems but help fix them is worth its weight in gold. So we have a variety, clearly, of issues that we find with plan sponsors and a variety of experiences that we've had to help plan sponsors solve these challenges. So as a fiduciary, Pentegra has been doing this for 80 years, as I mentioned. We have thousands of clients that have placed their trust in us. Save those same clients countless hours and hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions, in fines and penalties. And at the very, very least, gave plan sponsors, participants, and advisors some of their time back and peace of mind. So at this point in the presentation, I just want to extend a warm thank you. I hope that this information was helpful. As was mentioned earlier, there's going to be a link sent out with a recording of this information. And if you want more detail, or if you want to have a deeper conversation, please either call the phone number on the screen in front of you at 1-800-872-3473. You can visit us at pentegra.com. or please talk to your local Pentegra resource regional director, and we'd be more than happy to sit down and have a further conversation on how we can provide these same benefits to you and your clients. Thank you very much, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.
All right, thank you everyone for attending, and John, thank you so much for your time. We did have a few questions that we just did not have time for today, so we will certainly be reaching out individually to answer those. Thank you, everyone.